Routes are the bread and butter of LeadNav. We needed a system that could allow you to quickly draw out a line or a path that you want to take and navigate that path. You can do this at home or you can do this in the field. It doesn't matter. LeadNav gives you a powerful way to build and plan these out. We can also build routes on higher end software with terrain models and everything else to give you a precise trip or a route line, and then you can take that route line and put it in the LeadNav. You can get way down the rabbit hole with route planning. It's what I specialized in. We do this on outside software, outside computers that allow you to see 3D models of terrain down to 15 centimeter, 1 meter. Google Earth gives you 30 meters, so that's an option for you as well. You can build these routes out in Google Earth, later import them in the LeadNav, add in your audio navigation, and run those inside the LeadNav application out in the field. There's a number of ways that you can build these routes. You can get really sophisticated in a military grade system with it, but LEADNAV GPS, the core application, gives you a pretty powerful way to do this on the fly. All right, to build our first route, I can go up here into the menu, into our GPS files, and I'm going to pull up our training trip collection, our folder. And you can see earlier, here's where we dropped our first 3 markers, and we blazed our first 3 trails with 2 track files. Up here on the top, you have routes, and we currently have 0 routes. I'm going to click on that to show the route list for this collection. As you can see, we don't have anything in the list. We're going to click New, and we're going to name this Day 1 Fuel Stop. Okay. All right, so now we're in the route building interface. As you can see, we have our aim point in the center of the map. We can scroll around. Down here in the middle, we have the total distance of the route that we're building. And then over here on the bottom left, we have 2 buttons. We have our serpentine dropper and we have our waypoint dropper. So we're going to kick off this route at our current location, which is at LeadNav, and I can verify that. Hit the crosshairs, centers on our position. So out the front door, I'm going to kick off the route. I'm going to drop a serpentine dot. I'm going to drop another one. Drop. Drop. So serpentine dots are just non-audio dots to draw a line or a path. All right, I'm going to zoom out, and as you can see, we built this system. You can use both hands. You can keep one hand over here on the serpentine and the waypoint dropper. You can keep the other hand over here, your thumb in the corner, and you can quickly draw out and plan a route. I can zoom out, study the terrain, look for a major artery of the direction I want to go. And right now I'm in an urban environment. LeadNav was built as a point-to-point planning interface for off-the-grid use. And there we're at the gas station. You can see the total distance of the route we just planned is 1.4 miles. If we aim anywhere in the route line, that distance will change to the distance in the route. You can see I can scroll through here if I want to find the 1 mile mark right there. I can see that right there. All right, I'm going to go over waypoints here in a second, but let's go over here to the right. This X is a delete last button, and if you watch the screen, it's deleting from the end of the route. I'm going to delete the whole way back. And then you can kick off again and start drawing. Delete, delete, delete. All right, this button here is the delete all. If you clear all that, it deletes the entire route. All right, so folks, I want you to be very careful in route building, specifically with the delete all button. If you're working on a very long route or a race or in there editing thousands of audio waypoints into your route and you hit the delete all button and you did not duplicate your collection or back up your work before you started editing, it's gone. Just fair warning. All right, so we're going to work on that route again. We're going to go into route, and you can see we have day 1 fuel stop. I'm going to pull up that route. I'm going to edit. And we deleted the entire route earlier. So we're going to start again. And I'm going to start dropping serpentines. And at this intersection, I want to put in a waypoint. I'm going to click the waypoint dropper right here. And now you can see this rally style interface pop up. I'm going to select the left turn, or the turn left as the default name appears, and hit save. All right, around that waypoint you have 2 circles, a red and a blue. That red circle is what we call a warning ring. It gives you a 15-second audio and visual alert to that waypoint. The blue is a now ring. It'll give you a 4 to 5 second now. So it'll sound something like this. As you're driving, depending off your speed, you'll get in 450 meters, turn left once you cross this red ring. Then you'll get a turn left when you cross the blue. These rings at 15 seconds and 5 seconds, generally if there's something coming up that you need to slow down for, that 15-second ring will let you know that. And as you slow down and you hit that 5-second ring, you'll see the turn or whatever it is coming up right away. All right, so we're going to keep going with our route. I'm going to zoom out, look at where we want to go. And I'm just going to quickly drop in a turn right. And I'm going to drop in a turn left. I'm going to zoom in there. Okay, see what's going on here. Drop some serpentines. And if I want to get all high speed, I can put a turn right into fuel stop. Done. Whatever you name this waypoint is what you'll get as an audio visual warning. So for this turn, you would get in 450 meters, turn right into fuel stop. And at the now ring, you would get turn right into fuel stop. Now you can see in this route, I just built it really quickly. I just snapped turn to turn and pretty much straight line down the actual segments. It really depends on how much time you have and how detailed you want to get with the actual route. You can go in there and adjust it per little turn or bend in the road if you want a more accurate ETA or estimated time of arrival and distance to destination. If I want to make it more accurate, I could aim the aim point mid-route, and I can drop anything mid-segment into the route. So right now I just put a serpentine dot in the middle of this segment. And if I want to zoom in, you can hold down on that waypoint or serpentine and you can drag it to adjust the route line. I can go down here, click on that, drag it to the bend in the road. This turn right's a little off, so I'm going to put it right here in the middle of the intersection. Same thing down here. Boom. Now just know, if you are too far off of the route line and I try to drop something, it's going to continue drawing the route from the end. This happens a lot in racing with long routes like the Baja 1000, where you have a 1,000-mile route that you're editing. When you do this, people get freaked out and they don't know what's going on. You basically get this big spider web from the end of the route, mid-route. You can just go in there and hit the delete last button. Or if it happens, you can click on the actual point itself and delete it and get back onto the route and get it put in there. You can see this one's a little off, so I'm gonna, if I have the time, I can make that as detailed as I like. All right, so I'm going to zoom out. You can see we have our route there. We have the total distance. Now, if I want to navigate that route, I can go up into the menu. I'm under the day one fuel stop route, hit run, and we'll fire up navigation. So as soon as we hit run on a route, our position will snap to our location. Then we'll start driving down this route, and on the HUD interface, you'll start getting some navigation. Top left is always your speed, your current speed. Next waypoint displays the name and the symbol of the next waypoint that you're approaching. Down here you get the distance to the next and the time to the next waypoint. And over here you get the distance to the destination and the time to destination till you hit the end of the route. Over here on the left you have your compass. The red indicator will keep you on the route. And in the center of this, you also get the symbol of your next waypoint. Again, something to keep note is that there's a ton of code running in the back end of LEADNAV to help you run these routes. So we compensate for things like the course coming back onto itself to keep you going in the right direction. Otherwise, it would hop over and try to get you to the target faster. So we understand on tighter tracks or trails where you might come in close vicinity of other sections of the route, just know that there is all kinds of code running in the background of LEADNAV to compensate for that for the best case scenario. That being said, if you ever get messed up on the navigation piece or she's not running the route correctly, you can always go back up to the menu, hit run again, and she'll fix herself. So as you run the navigation, you'll be going down this route line and you'll see the highlighted point or waypoint ahead of you being surrounded by these little circles. That kind of lets you know what's being triggered next. So as you're driving down this route, you'll see the next point highlighted with the circles as you're going down the line. And those are what she's referencing as far as keeping you on track in all your navigation and your points and your warnings. Let's say though that you want to cut this corner here. You got out here, you planned this route, but you start cutting left and then back onto the trail. So she knows to kind of look for things like that. So if you cut left here, in about 1 minute, you might see the next highlighted point being up here. But as soon as you get closer to another point that's further down the route, she will rerun and re-navigate from that point. So as you go down here, you might be traveling down this road and she might be going, go back that way, go back that way. But as you go and get closer to these other points in the route, she'll start to snap back on the trail. If you ever have any issues, like if you cut this corner and get back onto the route and she's still having issues telling you to navigate backwards or something like that, you can just go up the menu again, hit run, and she'll fix herself. Something else you can do after you build these routes out, if we go into that day one fuel stop, we can go back in and edit it later on, maybe put some more waypoints on there. Or we can go up here to menu under that route. And there's a few options under routing. You have reverse. If I hit reverse, it flipped the route the other way. So what's kind of interesting is she is smart enough. We just reversed this route so we can navigate it back home. She's smart enough to flip all the default symbols and their verbiage. So as you can see, we were heading this way and it was a turn right. Well, now we're heading this way and she flipped it around to a turn left. Right? And you can see if we left the default verbiage in that waypoint, she will flip that as well. Okay, what she is not smart enough to do though is flip your own custom verbiage around. So if you put downhill sweeping left, you totally wipe out the default name. She's not going to be able to flip that. But anything default, if you sat there and you jammed a quick route to go into somewhere or go into the field and you reverse it, she'll flip that all and you can run that right back home. So we're going to go back up here in the menu and take a look at some of these other features in here. So we went over reverse. You can also rename it. You can also duplicate it if you want to do some edits to it and you don't want to mess up the original. Under the higher subscriptions, you can change the color of it. And I'm going to save some of this other stuff for a later date, but you can do a lot of different things with an individual route. Part of the Pro Pack, you can join multiple routes together. You can export to a GPS unit, or you can copy this route out to another collection. So there's a number of different things down here you can do. A lot of these routing features are more advanced features, and I'm going to talk about them later. And most of them come with the Pro Pack and the ability to take large amounts of routes, cut, edit, splice them, trim them up, put them together, and make complete trip package routes out of them. A lot of those Pro Pack features that allow you to do that are intended for organizations that are trailblazing or are big groups out there that are doing mapping and running the event themselves. If you're pre-running, or if you're one of our racers, they also allow you to do a lot more with the individual route file to clean it up. Or if you're track recording, you have a big bird's nest, you can always convert that track to a route, clean that track up, edit, cut, splice, merge, and do all this fancy stuff. Hence the Pro Pack, hence it being the higher grade subscription. That's it for that route. We can back up. Now you can see we have that one route built, and we can go in and build another route. And let's call this to rescue Fred. We're back in the route editor. You can see that our other routes that we built are subdued. They're not bright because we're now building a new one, and this new route is the one that's going to be highlighted. So we'll start from down here. And if you remember from an earlier class, we plotted Fred out here in the middle of the woods along this river. All right. So we're going to start here, and I'm just going to quickly build another route. Get the route started. I'm going to zoom out, study the terrain a little bit, look down at the map. Again, I can always switch map types if I want to switch to something else, like more of a cartoon map, or maybe I want some terrain. So switching map types, sometimes you're in an area that's a lot of desert, or you can see every single trail out there, so you're perfectly fine running satellite imagery. But a lot of times if you're in heavy trees or woods, it's easier to switch over to the cartoon maps, because some of the cartoon maps that we offer have pretty detailed trail systems marked out on the cartoon map that you wouldn't be able to see through satellite map imagery under the tree line. So again, you can switch through these different map types as you're building the route, study them both. Just remember though, if you go off the grid and you're back home planning using those different map types, if you don't have one of our in-app subscriptions to save out and prep those background map layers for when you go offline off the grid without cell or Wi-Fi, the screen will be blank. You won't have those with you. So that's what the subscriptions offer. They offer you the ability to save and prep that in the background. So you can do all this stuff that we're showing you right now offline off the grid on the fly. I'm switching over to Mapbox Terrain just to see if I can see any trail systems. Down here you can see this road. I could barely see it on satellite map imagery. If I switch back, and if we zoom in on that, you can see it's kind of tough. I can see it's like a power line, right? So I know I can do, you know, put a stay left in here around this bend. And right here, we lose the road. We know that it looks like something's over here, so I'm just going to switch map types. And yes, I can confirm that there is a trail going through here. So I'm going to switch back to Mapbox Satellite. And we're going to zoom in here a little bit and try to look for some other terrain. Looks like right here, if I put a waypoint, stay right, off-road, out of circle, hit save, and we can start blazing that trail down this path. And I can barely see this. I can just study in the tree line. There looks like there might be something cutting over right here in the shadows. So I'm going to put here through break. And what I'm talking about there is just that little break in the trees. I'm going to stay right here, stay left, wood line on right, stay left, wood line on right, and we're going to assume that this is a cut through here. I can kind of see in the shading of the tree line that it's cut through there. So we're just going to plan through that. I'm going to draw that out. And then here, I'm going to put, hopefully, merge right onto trail. Right here, I'm going to hopefully, that's going to be a merge right on the trail. And actually right here, now that we're in here, I can see on satellite map imagery, I can actually see this logging road. So I'm going to zoom back out. And we're going to try to study. This looks pretty swampy in here, I'm not going to lie. So, you know, but this is what LEADNAV GPS, this is what we specialize in, off the grid navigation. So I'm going to study this terrain the best I can. I can see a little bit of water in here. Looks like this might be higher ground up through here. Obviously we drop down closer here, it turns into a river. So I'm going to try to stay as high as I can. And we're going to, right along this, we're going to skirt this opening. Turn right in opening. And we're going to just assume that we can skirt this. And it looks pretty wet in here. We might need our waders. But we're just going to bend this around to Fred's position and go rescue him. Zoom out, take a look at that. If we need to go in here and fine tune anything, like if we want to mark here that danger, we can edit in a danger wetlands. You can enter a waypoint in mid-route. You can see the total distance is 1.45 miles, almost 1.5 miles. We can see how far into the route that danger, that wetlands is. It looks to be about, 1.3 into the route. You can scroll back through, take a look. We can go down here, switch map types, map box terrain. We can switch to USGS satellite. Maybe we get some better imagery in that. The satellite maps, depending on where they came from, they could be anywhere from a year to 5 years old. So I always like to go through different map types and toggle through them and just bounce things off of each other just to see if there's any changes in the terrain. LEADNAV GPS, we specialize in point-to-point off-the-grid navigation for stuff like this. We're not an urban app. If you're in a cell or data environment, you can switch between LEADNAV GPS when you're off-road and something like Google Maps when you're driving around town. LEADNAV specializes in routing off-the-grid, point-to-point. You plan the route and you go. So again, I'm going to switch back to Bing Satellite. I can also try Bing Hybrid with some names on the roads. And in Bing Hybrid, you can actually see that they have that logging road that we planned on highlighted. So if I scroll into that, you can actually see that road better. Again, through here, I might want to switch through map types to study the terrain as best as possible. But again, this is off the grid work, and we're going to get dirty. And in this case, it looks like we're going to get a little wet. But there you have it. We have a route planned over to Fred. Now, I can take that route that I just planned, and I can scroll down in the menu, and I can share that individual route out. I can airdrop it to them direct between iPhone and iPad. I can also message it out. I can Dropbox it out, or I can save file it out, or I can share it through a desktop computer through iTunes Direct. And if we are in an off-the-grid environment, we can also run our satellite equipment and share it off the grid to off the grid while in the field. And now you can see that we have 2 routes. And if I back up again, in our training trip collection, we have now 2 routes, 2 tracks, 3 markers. It's really up to you when it comes to organizing in the collections. For this training demo, it was kind of turned into a rescue mission. So if we wanted to rename that whole collection or duplicate that collection that we're working on into its own new collection and call it Rescue Operation January 2019, we could do that, and then we could take that collection and we can distribute it out to all of our folks that are going to be on the mission. We can share it out via messaging. We can do it peer-to-peer through AirDrop while everybody's in the room. We can Dropbox it into a Dropbox cloud account. We can share it through the files. We can share it through a PC computer if we don't want to be connected to the network. For some of our military folks who don't like that, we can hook up the iPad or iPhone directly to a PC or a Mac running iTunes, and we can direct drop in those files to the units themselves without doing a Wi-Fi share or anything over the network.